My argument about if God predestined all things, I don't believe God created evil people, right? So I heard somebody say that as well.
Okay, so God didn't create evil people.
God created two destinations. There's a destination for the wicked and a destination for the righteous. Since we see in the Bible that wicked people can become righteous and righteous people can become wicked, we do not say that God actualized a world in which people are evil by their own, created by God. Go ahead.
So did God create evil?
Did God create evil? I would say that Isaiah says he created calamity, which, natural disasters, things of that sense. But in James, it says God does not tempt men with evil. Therefore, I do not believe.
No. JP, no. It says God, I create evil. Game over. Game over. He knows exactly where they're going. They think they got him. This is funny because I'm going to use my chart to show this. My simple chart that everybody should agree with, since nobody gave me any reason not to think it's a good point. But let's continue. They think they got him, man. They're just so sure God creates evil things from his hand. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's fantastic. It's outrageous. Oh, man. This is interesting.
That's not what I said. Mm-hmm. That's not what I asked. Did God create evil? Yes or no?
God created a world in which free creatures can do evil, but God did not create evil in and of itself.
Come on, JP. Ask that.
No, God did not create evil in and of itself. No.
JP, yes or no? Did you stop beating your wife yet? Yes or no, JP?
Okay. So can you go ahead? We want you got it.
Oh, they can't wait because they got him. Because that verse, it says, I create evil. Game over. Game over. No.
Isaiah 45:7. Who's the
We got you, man. God's evil, man. We got you. It says, I create evil. You're done, JP. You're done. The Bible says plainly, I can quote the verse, I create evil. Thus says God. Boom. Game over.
I there?
God.
I form the light.
Yes, sir.
I create darkness.
Yes, sir.
I make peace, and I create evil. So according to the Bible, who created evil? All these things.
Yeah, so the KJV translates it as evil, but the other translation translated as calamity. So I don't believe it's fair that you can hold me to the KJV when you use the NLT when it's convenient for you. So as I said before, God. Go ahead, Deacon. Go ahead.
Okay, it's fine. Is calamity evil?
Is calamity evil? So in the context of what calamity is, natural disasters, things of that sort, in which God has the ability to punish people, such as the flood, which is the biggest calamity of them all. So God can use things such as natural disasters and things of that sort to ultimately accomplish his purposes. But God did not create sin. God did not actualize evil. Isaiah does not say that.
What's the definition of calamity, brother?
Straight up on point. That's exactly right. This is where people, this is like the proof text. Look, it says I create evil. It's the same word. But when you look at other things that the Bible teaches, you don't get to tear this out and say, oh, God, evil things come from God's hand directly. God makes things to be evil. No, God, I'm sorry. The context of the biblical narrative does not suggest that. Every time it talks about things coming directly from God's hand, originally, the way he makes things, it's always careful to say that God is not evil. And the verse he went to in James is absolutely applicable. It's extremely important. Now, let me demonstrate why this is correct. I mean, I'm a layman. This is just my way of showing how I think it is, but someone's welcome to critique me if they want to. So this is supposed to be an interpretive chart here. Really basic, really simple. Just to kind of try to illustrate what I'm thinking here. So there's the verse on the left. I form the light, create the darkness. That's a creation sort of language. But the I make peace and create calamity or evil, I the Lord do all these things. Yes, God is sovereign. But does this verse get to be pulled out and say that evil things come from God's hand? So that's the question. It's the interpretive question, because maybe it's okay. So here's the question. We're asking the question, do evil things come from God's hand directly, in the sense of like, by that I mean he makes them in order for them to be evil from scratch or from their origin? That's one option. Another option would be, we all agree that God uses evil, right, for purposes, right? The question is, did he create things for that purpose from his hand? See the difference? That's what people are having an issue with, the way people use this evil. Like, did God create Satan to be evil? Like, or does the text indicate that he became evil by his own doing? I want to say that the latter is the case. And that's a really important distinction here, okay? Did God create Satan like, hey, I'm going to create this evil being for evil? Or does the text want to say something else? This is what the distinction is. So that's the distinction I'm asking. So we can ask these questions about this text. Does God create things from scratch or from his hand directly in order to be evil? Is that so? The first question, is this being taught? And the answer is maybe. That's compatible with what this text says. That God creates things for the purpose of them to be evil for evil. It's possible. So is it being taught? Maybe, because that would depend on the author's intention. What are they trying to say here? What does the author intend to say here? Is he intending to teach that, oh no, God's a yin yang God. He makes stuff because he wants it to be evil, and he made it for it being evil. It's for his glory. Or do things become evil and then God uses that for purposes amongst the chaos? Okay, that's different than saying he wants things to be evil, basically, and he created them for that purpose. Does God create evil things for a purpose? Or does he create things that become evil, and then he uses that? That's undeniable. Okay. Is evil coming directly from God's hand compatible with this text? And the answer to that question is yes, it's possible. I mean, it's possible, and so it certainly is compatible. Like that could be the interpretation regarding the grammar or the way the words are, the way you can interpret the words. But here's another question. Do we have to believe that evil comes directly from God's hand because of this text, number 3? And the answer to that is absolutely not. And that's the error of these people, this way of proof texting. It says, I create evil, therefore God makes things from scratch for evil, to be evil, for evil. And people just delight in this idea, not knowing what kind of heretic or heresy they're foisting upon God, in my opinion. The main question, no one's has a problem with God using calamity. The question is, does evil come directly from his hands for the purpose of being evil? I'd say no. He uses evil or calamity. That's why calamity is a better translation, because the text, whenever it talks about things, how God intended or God originally created things, no evil. Everything's good. Satan was a different kind of being from God's hand, and by way of his own doing, within himself, evil things come from the world and not from God. Let me read a verse or two. I mean, this is serious business regarding what you're saying about God here. If you're wrong, and they are wrong, in my opinion, Calvinists are wrong on this. And it's very disturbing that people want to use this verse to try to argue that evil things come directly from God, when the book of James says very much otherwise. But it's just like it was Jesus' brother who's the head of the church. Not like he knows what he's talking about or anything. He's just talking to the Jews anyway, not being sarcastic. Who cares what the head of the original church said that was related to Jesus and was born in the same family as Jesus? I mean, who cares? Where is that verse? I can't even remember. Let's see. I'll have to look it up. Okay. Blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life. That's salvation, by the way, which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But now this is the key. But each one is tempted when he, the tempted one, is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. Then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's full grown, brings forth death. Now look, if you want to say his desires are given by God, that flies in the face of what the verse before that says, okay? So yes, I know through compatibilism or something you can say, yeah, but the things that are that he's drawn by that are his own desires, and that's, do you really want to argue here in verse 14 that God gives him those desires to be enticed? The text says, let no one say when he is tempted, I'm tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But man, when he is tempted, that is, tempted by something other than God, because it just said God doesn't tempt anyone and cannot be tempted by evil. So when that man, by his own desires, has become enticed, when that desire conceived, when he makes love to his evil desires that are within himself and not from God, when you hump that, you impregnate Satan. And when Satan gives birth, you do acts of sin. And when that's full grown, you go to hell. So good job, JP. I fully concur with your explanation to these jokers laughing like they got you and you cut them up.